Hi there. Jamie here, making another video. I mean, it's been what, almost 2 weeks. I figure I'm due. Um, there's been a thing going on Facebook, thing floating around. What's your favorite concert? What's the loudest concert? What's the worst concert? And it made me pull out my concert diary that I've been keeping track of. I've been keeping track of concerts since the 80s. I just wrote each one down. Of course, gave each one a 5-star rating um, based on like the night in general, not just the band. Sometimes the venue, sometimes the seats. I take a lot in consideration, and that's how I give it a 5-star rating. Nothing here is a 1-star. Well, one comes close, but I thought it would be fun. I don't know if anyone's going to be interested in this, but I thought it would be fun to kind of, go through the diary a little bit and talk about the first thing that comes to my mind when I see the concert. I haven't prepared shit for this. I haven't even looked this over. I mean, I know what's on here more or less, but I haven't looked it over and thought of what I'm going to say. So I'm just going to come up with the first little tidbit or story or idea about the concert. I don't know how long. I'm definitely not going to make it through it all. I'm going to start in the late 70s. There's two in the late 70s and into the 80s. Let's see if we make it to the end of the 80s. I would like to do this 80s, 90s, aughts, and 2010s into 4 chapters. We'll see how that goes. If I run long, I'm already running long. So I should probably just get to it. But if I run long, I'll do the 80s in 2 chapters. We'll see how it goes. But 1978, first show I ever went to, Kiss in New England at the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, PA. I remember this concert for being 8 years old, or maybe I was 9, depending on the month. I remember this better than I probably should remember for an 8 or 9-year-old. I do remember my dad next to me with his fingers in his ears the whole time. I remember smelling pot, and I wasn't sure what it was. I mean, I saw my dad last summer, and he was like, "You remember that Kiss concert? All I smelled was pot." So I remember that. I remember the drum solo with the drum set rising, and I remember I didn't know what an opening band was. So when these guys came on with no makeup, I'm like, "Dad, who's this? What's this? I don't understand." And then my guitar teacher, I was taking guitar lessons back then, told me there is a certain thing called an opening band. He explained it all to me. Uh, so yeah, I mean, and I know in 1978, like the true Kiss fans, maybe 18 years old and older, really hated that us kids were coming around the shows. That's what I heard. So to all you guys who are like a decade older than me, maybe 8 years older than me, I apologize for being one of those stupid little kids running around a Kiss concert, because to me, they were superheroes. I wanted to see superheroes. And I liked the songs. I remember. I played Ace Frehley's solo album to death and Destroyer when I was a kid and alive one. 79, my parents were going to see Neil Diamond, and they're like, "Should we bring the kid?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" That one I don't remember a shit ton about. I remember my uncle brought me down close to the stage, and we kind of snuck there for just a minute just to see him up close, and then we went back up to our nosebleeds. But I don't remember songs. It's a shame too, because I would like to remember that 79 Neil Diamond show. He might have had he always has like a big orchestra type thing. So I bet you it kicked ass. I've seen him recently, right before he retired. I brought my mom, and he was really good. 84, I went to go see Bull Moose Jackson. I think he's the guy who originally did the big 10-inch that is it 10 inches? I think it's 10-inch that Aerosmith made popular. And he was with a band called the Flash Cats. It was at the Stanley Theater in Pittsburgh. It was a fun little thing. They had a record show there too. So it was a whole thing my dad brought me to. 84. 85, my first real concert as a teenager now. Dio and Rough Cut at the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, PA. And this was the Sacred Heart Tour. So, I'm a teenager. I wasn't driving yet. I got dropped off. Me and my friend and I got dropped off. And yeah, that was the Battling the Dragon and the Crystal Ball. This concert is when I learned what an encore was, because it was good night, Pittsburgh, and my buddy and I, that's it, let's go. And as we were walking, during past the concession stands and everything, we heard him come back on stage. And we're like, son of a bitch. So we ran back into a section that we just happened to be by. Like, so between 78 and 85, I learned what an opening band was the hard way and what an encore was the hard way. So 1986, my second concert as a teenager, Pat Benatar and The Alarm. Now, she was playing the Civic Arena, with that holds like what, 19,000, 18,000 people. Well, it did hold when it was around. And I had cheap nosebleed seats, got dropped off. But I was in all my glory seeing Pat for the very first time. The Alarm wasn't bad. They're kind of like a poor man's U2. But yeah, I snuck in a tape recorder for that show, and I taped it on my. I had the tape recorder, hidden in my jacket because I thought someone would find out and kick me out. Yeah, I used to listen to that tape more than I should have because it didn't sound very good though. I wish I still had it. Then after that, I went to go see Twisted Sister and Dokken in the same year. We got dropped off for that one. My buddy was a bigger Twisted Sister fan than me, and I was a bigger Dokken fan than him. So I went primarily for Dokken, and he went to see Twisted Sister. But I mean, it was to come out and play, tour, and the whole stage looked like a back alley, and Dee Snider came out of the manhole, and I think it started with come out and play, kind of like the Warriors. Is that how the album starts out too? My God, I never owned the album, but I recall that's how it may start out. A buddy of mine had it. But yeah, that was the Under Lock and Key tour for Dokken, which is one of my favorite albums from the 80s. I love that album. Then 87, I saw Crosby, Stills, and Nash with the Fabulous Thunderbirds. The last concert I got dropped off for, I call that my favorite concert ever because it's the first time I got chills and a little choked up during a concert. Now, I've gotten chills since then, but it was my first time, and you never really forget your first time in anything. So I always call that my favorite show of all time. It really opened my eyes to what music can do to you and how it can make you feel. Fabulous Thunderbirds they are what they are. And they were what they were that night. Jimmy Ray Vaughan's a great guitarist, though. I saw him later in another show, and he kicked ass. Fabulous Thunderbirds, he was just so reserved. Boston after that with Fahrenheit. I don't remember much about Fahrenheit. There was some flavor of the month in 1987. Some of you guys might remember them and actually like them. I don't know. But Boston, this was the second show. They sold out 2 shows in Pittsburgh. And we got tickets to the second one. And that's the first one I ever drove to. And if you ever driven in downtown Pittsburgh, if you make one wrong turn, it can be a 45-minute mistake. There's no place to make U-turns. You make a wrong turn, you're on the highway for maybe 7-8 miles. Then you got to turn around and go back. And there was no GPS back then. And I didn't know my way around Pittsburgh. And we went with barely any gas in our tank, and we had no money. Spent the money on the tickets. And coming home, I got lost, and I'm driving towards Monroeville when I need to go the opposite way, and I'm frustrated. And now we're getting on the turnpike, and we have no money at all. And you got to pay to get on the turnpike. So now my buddy's in the back seat, ripping apart the cushions, looking for money just to pay to get on the turnpike. We're thinking, well, maybe they can bill us. And then someone cut me off on the road. I'm 16 or 17 years old, and I'm pissed. And I looked over, they're giving me the bird, and I am making it's a dude driving and his girlfriend, and I'm making rude tongue gestures to her, and I shouldn't, but I am because I'm a dumb kid. So I go past them, and I think it's done dealing with them, and I'm in line to get the ticket to the turnpike that I don't know how I'm going to pay for. My window's down. All of a sudden, a fist comes through my open window and punches me in the eye. It's the chick's boyfriend. And he's yelling at me, "You get out of the car. You want to fuck with me? Get out of the car. And I'm like, no, thank you, sir. And I'm punched in the eye. I have no money. We're below E. How we got home that night, I have no idea. How we paid for the turnpike, I cannot remember if we found enough quarters or if they billed me. I don't know, but that was a hell of a night. Then after that, David Lee Roth and Cinderella at the Civic Arena in '87. Cinderella, I didn't know much about them, but they did Nobody's Fool. And I turned to my buddy, and that's the first time any of us heard that song. I'm like, that's gonna be a motherfucking hit. And it was. Um, David Lee Roth was great. We were on the floor and he came out into the middle. The catwalk came out and he came out into the middle on the mini stage. And we were right by him. It was like having front row tickets there for a minute while he was on the mini stage. Then we went to '87. We saw Heart and Borgias Tag, or however you say that. Heart was really good. We got up to the front row. We waited overnight for tickets for that show. Me and my buddy at Kaufman's in Beaver County, PA. And we waited for them to open at 10 o'clock. And guess what? Nobody else waited in line all night. Nobody was there. Nobody cared. It was just him and me and two lawn chairs and some beer that we got someone to buy us. That's why we really kind of waited in line for tickets back then, to get away from the parents and drink beer all night. And then I saw Rush and Tommy Shaw later that year in '87, Civic Arena. That was a big snowstorm. There was probably only 6,000 people there because of the snow. We barely made it there. I think we got dropped off for that one. I didn't even drive. So yeah, but it was a good show. I mean, I kind of wanted it to be a little heavier at the time because there was a lot of, that synth Rush songs going on. But it was good. Tommy Shaw was good. I think he did 8 songs and every other one was a Stick song. And he did Girls with Guns, which is an all right song. '88, Cinderella, Winger, and Bullet Boys. Now, I always liked Cinderella, and my buddies were all going. I said, sure, I'll go. I do not like Winger. I do not like Bullet Boys, but we'll have a good time. We'll get a bottle of something and party it up for it. And Cinderella was really good. I mean, this is the long cold winter tour. They had snow coming down, and Kiefer is coming down from the ceiling in a big, I don't know if it's a baby grand piano, but it's a big white piano. So they are really good. Winger was Winger, and Bullet Boys were awful. Oh my God, one of the worst shows I've ever seen was Bullet Boys. Oh, I still see them. Dude, I can't remember the lead singer's name, but man, he was just David Lee Roth wannabe. Then I saw Bob Dylan later that year in '88. And I was told recently, if you saw Dylan back in the day, if you played keyboards all night, you're going to get a shitty show. If you play guitar, you're going to get a decent show. I got him on a keyboard night. I didn't recognize any of the songs. Sometimes by the lyrics, I would recognize them. I'm like, oh, I would love to see Dylan on a good night. I don't think that, and it was a big place too. It wasn't intimate at all. It was the Civic Arena, but they kind of cut the Civic Arena in half. Still, it's still a big place you're in. Then I saw Crosby, Stills and Nash again at the AJ Palumbo Center, and they kicked ass again. Of course, they didn't live up to that first show. I've seen them a lot since, but they never really lived up to the first show. Then Ozzy Osbourne and the Anthrax. I was in college at the time, living downtown Pittsburgh at Point Park College, so we could walk over to the Civic Arena. And I bought 2 tickets for this chick that I kind of dug in me, and we went and had a good time. And then she went back to her dorm, and I went back to my dorm. Ozzy was good. Anthrax, I don't remember a lot about. I wasn't into Anthrax in 1988. That's the thing. I didn't get into Anthrax until the John Bush years. Then '89 happened. Oh, look, we're at the end of the '80s already. Oh, I saw Stevie Nicks and the Hooters. Or as I remember, the morning show in Pittsburgh, the day of the concert, they said Stevie Nicks and her Hooters are coming into Pittsburgh tonight. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. No, it's Stevie Nicks and the Hooters. The Hooters, I like, I like their hits. Nervous Night has a couple good songs on it. All you zombies and we danced. Who hates and we danced? And they were all right. Stevie Nicks was really good too. But yeah, but again, cheap seats, cheap seats. At this point, I'm thinking it's really hard to get good seats, isn't it? Well, as time went on, I got better and better seats. Then in '89, I went to go see Elton John with a buddy of mine. He had ticket free, yeah, extra free ticket the day of the show. He said, "You want to go see Elton John?" And I said, "Hell yeah!" And that's the second time I got emotional. It got, the goosebumps and the choked upness and everything. That was something that was one of the best shows I've ever seen. And then in '89, I saw Jethro Tull and It Bites. It Bites, make your they bite jokes. A lot of people, I think they have kind of a cult following, a little bit of cult following, but I didn't know who they were then. I really don't know who they are now. I remember very little about them. I remember not being impressed. Paul was good. They did a lot of newer songs, I think, on that set list, if I remember correctly. Like a lot of Rock Island. That was the Rock Island tour. But yeah, it was good. I remember I think the keyboardist, I forget his name, I don't know. It was like the keyboard was running out of power. So what they did is they opened the back of the keyboard and shoveled coal into it to get it running again. I seem to remember that. I need to go on YouTube and see if there's any video of that actually happened. Did I make that up in my mind, or did they really do that? It's very Jethro Tull if they did that. Then I saw David Crosby in '89. Small place, the Syrian Mosque in Pittsburgh. I remember I could barely afford tickets to that. I got myself one and I told my buddies, he might die any day. I better go now. And he lived another, 34 years. And then my buddy and I went to go see Pink Floyd at Three River Stadium. It's the Momentary Lapse of Reason tour. That was really good. I remember during one of the songs from Momentary, Sorrow, I think that's the name of the song. That's on Momentary, right? During the guitar solo, the power went out. Right in the middle of the guitar solo. Stage went down, sound went out. It came back maybe a little, I don't know, like 10 minutes later. But I remember when the power went out, David Gilmour goes, "Oh, that was getting boring anyways." Your guitar solo, dude. I was digging it. And then I got last minute tickets in '89 to see the Stones on the Steel Wheels tour with Living Color. Again, nosebleeds, big time nosebleeds, because now I'm in a stadium and back then in '89, there's no big screens. So you're looking at the band and they're this big. But it was really good. And they got this stage show, not as big as it got in like the '90s, but it was pretty big. And Living Color was good, but it was daytime and you're far away. It was kind of, a band never sounds that good when they're playing during the day. You need that nighttime to come down. And then sound kind of carries in the night a lot better. Yell at your buddy from the next block during the day. He ain't going to hear you. But when it's nighttime, he might hear you. And it's just not because there's more noise during the day. There's something about the night that just carries the sound waves a lot better. So yeah, you know how I got that ticket. I was the only, in 1989, I was one of the few people that could get served because my hair was thinning. So I'd wet down my hair to make it a little thinner. And I'd go and buy bottles of liquor downtown Pittsburgh. So for like a bottle of Jack or something, I got that ticket. Then I saw Crosby Nash at the Icy Light Amphitheater, which was a tent, basically a tent. And it was just Crosby, Nash, and the opening act I remember was, and it was an acoustic tour, but the opening act was a comedian. I remember he had a bench with a boombox on it before he came out, and it started playing rap music, and he came out with a baseball bat and started beating the shit out of it because he knew his audience, I guess. And that, he got the crowd right away with that. A bunch of not too old. In 89, I guess a lot of people in their 30s, early 40s, and me, 19 or 20. I was probably 19 for that. But yeah, it was really good, intimate. They were talking to one another, talking to us. It felt like, I said this before, you go see CSN or Crosby Nash, you feel like you're in their living room with them. So yeah, that was really good. So that's 78 to 89. I could keep going, but let's do the 90s, another video, and that'll give me reason to tape something, and then I'll do the 2000s, the aughts, and the 2010s into 2022. And by the time I get to 2022, I'm going to see a concert in 3 weeks. Maybe I have that one under my belt. So anyways, if you seen any of these tours, let me know. If you wanted to see any of these tours and couldn't for whatever reason, age, or didn't come to your town, let me know. Or just let me know what you were seeing around this time. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and take care. And look, I got a new high seat, like a director's chair seat. So I have the better angle with the TV and everything. And I can't do shows in my pajamas anymore, though, like I used to, because it was used to be from here up. So, all right, guys, until next time, when we hit the 90s, I'll talk to you later.